My Aunt Judith has always been what you'd call fiercely independent. She never married, never had children, and was proudly child-free. For her entire adult life, she stood tall on her own 2 feet, and anyone who knew her would say she had grit. A former senior executive at an international finance firm in Chicago, Judith was one of the few women of her generation to break the glass ceiling. She owned 2 beautiful condos in the city, had savings well into the 6 figures, and always seemed to have life perfectly figured out. So when she turned 70, she did what she had planned to do for years. She sold one of her properties, downsized, and bought into an upscale, private senior living facility just outside of Boston. It cost her $330,000 to secure a lifetime membership in what the brochures described as a resort-style, dignity-first, active aging community. I remember that day like it was yesterday. I'm her grandniece, Sarah. We'd always had a close bond, despite her distant air. I was the only family member she informed about her move. The staff wore crisp uniforms and broad, polished smiles. The grand atrium glowed with golden chandeliers. The manager, Mr. Whitaker, a man in a suit too fine for such a casual setting, slid the contract across the mahogany table toward Judith. Miss Caldwell, your signature here will officially make you a VIP member of Evergreen Oaks Senior Living. Your room is ready. She picked up the pen, one of those sleek fountain pens that glint in the sunlight like silver daggers, and signed her name with a steady hand. There was a tremor in her fingertips, but her expression was resolute. After she finished signing, she exhaled deeply, as if releasing a lifetime of tension. At last, she said softly, the rest of my life is taken care of. Judith, the only one in our family who never married or had children, had been the subject of whispered conversations during holidays and reunions for years. She's got all that money, but no one to share it with, my Uncle Jerry once muttered at Thanksgiving, watching the empty chair that was always reserved for her. Wait until she's too old to pour her own glass of water. Then what? But Judith never let that bother her. When she was younger, she carried the weight of our dysfunctional family on her small shoulders. Her father, my great-grandfather, was a hard-drinking, hard-handed man. Her mother, timid and always apologetic, never stood up for her children. As the eldest of 5, Judith bore the brunt of the chaos. She was often blamed for things she didn't do, hit for things she couldn't control. At 18, with bruises on her back and a college acceptance letter in hand, she left home and never looked back. She told herself she would build a life that no one could take from her, a life that didn't need anyone else. I'll show the world a woman doesn't need a husband or kids to live brilliantly, she would say with pride, over and over. And so she did. That morning she moved into Evergreen Oaks, I helped her unpack the few belongings she kept, some antique furniture, her favorite jazz records, a photo of her with her first rescue dog, Buddy. The room, a 500-square-foot luxury suite, gleamed with modern fixtures, high-thread count linens, and a small terrace that overlooked the garden. No more cooking, cleaning, or worrying about who's around, she said. This is a better plan than hoping some kid looks after you. As I looked at her silver hair tied neatly back, her upright posture, and her steel blue eyes, I felt a pang in my chest. It was admiration, yes, but also a twinge of worry. She handed me an envelope. For little Eli. His last red envelope from Aunt Judith. That moment felt oddly final. As I stood in the marble-tiled lobby, the envelope in hand, and watched her turn and walk away, her back straight as ever, I sensed that she wasn't just walking into a retirement home. She was trying to walk away from the last thread of family she had. For the first few months, Judith seemed happy. She called me once a week, told me about her walks in the garden, the koi pond, and the book club. She enjoyed the catered meals and said it was nice to be looked after for once. But then the calls stopped. When I checked in, she said she was fine in a voice that didn't sound like hers. One night, around midnight, I got a call. It was her. She sounded off, vulnerable.
Sarah, she said.
Can you bring me some pain patches? My back. It's acting up again. The next morning I drove out immediately. When I opened the door to her room, my heart dropped. The suite was a mess. Pill bottles were scattered on the nightstand. Her face looked gray, eyes sunken. She was lying in bed, curled like a leaf in autumn. "What happened, Aunt Judith?" "Nothing," she said, forcing a smile. "Just the usual back pain." But when I gently lifted the back of her shirt, I saw bruises, dark, spreading patches across her lower back. "Did you fall?" She hesitated. "The floor was slippery after my shower. It's nothing." I looked around and saw the emergency pull cord hanging halfway out of the wall. It had clearly been yanked hard. "You pulled the emergency cord?"
Yes.
But nobody came. Not for a while. I just lay there, waiting. That afternoon, after she dozed off, I spoke with one of the janitors in the hallway. 308, he whispered. "Oh, Miss Caldwell. Yeah, she's not popular with the staff." Clashed with the head nurse. Since then, her calls don't get answered quickly. Last week she fell. They didn't get to her for half an hour. I looked through the glass window into her room and realized she looked much older than when she moved in. The $330,000 had bought her a luxury facade, but not dignity, not care, not love. 2 months later, in the early morning hours during a heavy rainstorm, I got another call.
The ER.
"Are you Miss Sarah Caldwell? Your aunt fell and broke her hip. She's at St. John's. Needs surgery urgently." I raced to the hospital. Judith was already in surgery. The attending physician looked grim. She fractured her femur, and the facility delayed calling us. They did only basic treatment. "It's been over 12 hours. He hesitated. There were also signs of repeated bruising, not just from the fall. I stayed with her every night in the hospital. I bathed her, helped clean her, spoon-fed her soup I made at home. One evening, as I brushed her thin hair, she whispered, "Why are you doing this?"
"You're my aunt," I said.
"But I wasn't always kind to you." It was true. She'd always criticized me. I didn't go to a prestigious school. I took a simple office job. She used to say I was wasting potential. Her sharp tongue had made me cry more than once. But I remembered something else, too. When I fell off my bike as a kid and my knees were bleeding, you didn't say a word. You just carried me home on your back. When I cried because I failed a math test, you gave me a cookie and let me cry on your couch. I remember that. She cried then. Real, deep, shaking sobs. "They hated me there," she said. "Just because I complained about the food being salty. Just because I said the aides didn't wash their hands. They shut me out." In that moment, I finally saw her, not the proud, cold woman, but the little girl who once hid under the bed from a father's rage. 3 months later, she was discharged. But instead of returning to Evergreen Oaks, she asked me to take her home. "I've processed the cancellation," she said quietly. "They refunded $270,000. I lost $60,000. Consider it tuition." As I started the car, she reached into her purse and pulled out a bank card. "This is everything. My savings, the refund, all of it, $480,000. I'm giving you $450,000. Just let me stay with you. Take care of me, please." I didn't reach for the card. "Aunt Judith, I'm not doing this for money." "I know," she said, smiling, a real, soft smile. "But let me do this. I want to know what it's like to have family around." She moved into our small guest room. At first, we bumped heads a lot. She didn't like my husband's football games. She thought my son played too many video games. But over time, something shifted. She helped pick up my son from school. My husband repaired her old record player. We cooked dumplings together on Sundays, and one day, she even told a story about my dad as a boy, something she'd never done before. One evening, I found her quietly wiping tears on the balcony. "It's my birthday today," she said. "No one from the facility remembered. But your son gave me this." She held up a card, hand-drawn lopsided. "To the coolest grandma in the world," it said in crayon. Yesterday, I found her writing in the study. Later, as I tidied up, I saw a new will on the table. She'd left most of her estate to a children's protection charity, except a portion for my son's college fund. That night, over dinner, she said something I'll never forget. I used to believe money could buy everything. Comfort, security, even dignity. But now I see the most precious things in life can't be bought. I placed a piece of fish in her bowl. In that moment, I realized, after all these years, Judith had finally found her home. Not in a mansion, not in a retirement facility, but in a noisy house with leftover toys, a barking dog, and people who love her. Thank you for spending this time with us. If this story moved you, we invite you to follow along. Let's continue sharing stories that warm the heart, inspire compassion, and remind us of what really matters as we grow older. Not what we have, but who we have.